Good morning, Las Vegas, New Mexico. This is Lee Einer, and I wanted to take a few minutes this morning to shine a spotlight on some things that are going on here in our fair city, with particular respect to the Las Vegas City Council and the ordinances they've been enacting under the current administration. And I'd like to begin with actually something that the City Council has studiously avoided enacting, as has every city administration since the passing of our city charter. And that is, the City Council is tasked with enacting an ordinance that would actually attach penalties to various infractions of ethical behavior and conflicts of interest and problems with electoral process. And they're also tasked with populating an ethics and conflict of interest board that would investigate these allegations and would impose these fines, presumably. And guess what? The City Council, again, has avoided now for better than a decade enacting the ordinance that actually would impose upon them penalties for their own bad behavior. Isn't it amazing that this would be a persistent oversight? Why would that ever happen? I'll take all the time with that question you want. But I wanted to talk also, I wanted to focus on one funny ordinance that is our Weeds and Anti-Litter Ordinance. It's Chapter 290, and it was enacted in 2021 by the City Council. And, well, the first funny thing about this, and I don't think, for clarity, I don't believe that anybody should ever litter from an aircraft, okay, or in any form. But this ordinance does indeed impose fines for dropping litter from an aircraft. And boy, I'm glad they took care of that problem for us. How's it going to be enforced? Do we have like a Las Vegas Police Department air patrol that's going to be pulling up alongside helicopters and aircraft and writing out citations? Do we have somebody who's looking up in the sky with binoculars who's going to chase them down when they land at the city airport? I don't know. It seems just incredibly nonsensical, but hitting closer to home with this Weeds and Anti-Litter Ordinance, part of it is a laundry list of, they're exclusively annuals, which is interesting, and they are plants that are deemed to be horrible and terrible, and if they're growing on your property, you can be cited for, just the fact that they've popped up there. And let me read you from, it's in definitions under this ordinance. It says, all noxious, rank, poisonous, harmful, unhealthful vegetation deleterious to health, and shall include but is not limited to the following named plants. So there you are. The following plants that I'm going to talk about have been deemed by the city to be rank, noxious, poisonous, harmful, unhealthful, deleterious to health. And top of the list is pigweed, which is a wild amaranth. We know it up here as Quelites del Burro. It has traditionally been harvested and eaten. It's quite good, as amaranths tend to be, and quite nutritious. And weird that it would be criminalized. Moving down the list, we have Russian thistle, ragweeds. Yeah, nobody likes them. And right below ragweeds, we have lamb's quarter. And it says in parentheses, Chenopodium species. It's actually Chenopodium. They misspelled that. But lamb's quarters are what we call here Quelites, which I believe is the Nahuatl for edible greens. Okay. And we criminalize the edible greens here. You can get in trouble for having Chenopodium album or Chenopodium burlandi. That's our lamb's quarters, growing on your property. So by all means, if you find any remove them immediately and provide them to me for safe and proper disposal. I will immediately chop some onions and get some red chili flakes and make sure that those terrible Quelites are disposed of in a safe manner for you. Kochia, yeah, nobody loves kochia. But right under kochia, we have London rocket. And some of you who, I have to disclose, I'm a forager. I've been a forager for years, so I'm kind of familiar with the local plants here. London rocket is a wild arugula. So that's apart from the Quelites, that's another thing that's been taken out of your salad bowl, and the Quelites del burro. Now, you best not have arugula growing on your property, or you can be in trouble with the city. And right below London rocket, we have flicksweed and tansy mustard. They're both the same family. They're both Descurania species, and closely related enough that I couldn't tell them apart if I wanted to. But they're both mustards. They're both, edible greens. I believe the tansy mustard was traditionally cultivated here by some indigenous peoples because, once again, it's an edible green, and there are also medicinal purposes for the seed. I don't encourage necessarily doing this, but one old indigenous practice for removing a foreign object from your eye was to actually take a mustard seed, a wild mustard seed, and place it in the corner of your eye, and the tear duct would generate enough water to wash the foreign object out. Again, don't try this at home, but I'm just saying, these plants have been around for a long time. They're plants with human uses. They don't destroy the habitat. They're not apocalyptic. Come on, stop it. Scrolling further down, we have silverleaf nightshade. It's Solanum elaginiifolium. You might recognize the name Solanum. Yeah, it's related to tomatoes and similar things. Also called horse nettle. And also up here, known as trompillo. And the horse nettle is it's a lovely little plant, and it is a little plant. It's not going to get, huge and dominate the vacant lots. It's like, this tall if. And kind of fern-like silvery leaves, and a beautiful flower that is a vivid purple with a yellow heart. Once it matures and it bears fruit, it's easily mistaken. You've seen these with the little kind of dingle balls that are about 3/4 of an inch across, the fruit of the trompillo, easily mistaken for a wild tomatillo, about the same size and the same habit. They're both solanum, right? They're both tomato related, so yeah, easy to mistake, but do not eat these. They're really, really bitter little berries. What they are used for traditionally here is a rennet substitute. If you're not going to try and either find it in the store or extract the rennet from the stomach of a slaughtered goat or sheep, then you can use these little berries to coagulate your milk into cheese. There's nothing wrong with this plant. How this plant got into the rogues gallery of, rank, noxious, horrible things, I'm just baffled. And going down from there, we have goat's heads. Nobody loves goat's heads. And we have bindweed, which, presumably if you have bindweed growing on your property, you're in trouble. But have you tried to get rid of bindweed? You'll be at it for years, man. It is an invasive, and it is incredibly persistent. So good luck with that. But right below bindweed on the list, we have purslane. No Latin name given in this ordinance, but we know what purslane is. It's the Anglo name for verdolagas. One of the most delicious and nutritious wild pot herbs that you can possibly forage and harvest. The purslane stands apart as one of the few plant sources of omega fatty acids. It's how do I describe it? It's like a little baby succulent. It looks like like a little ice plant maybe. Um, Very plump leaves, and grows frequently out of odd places. Cracks in sidewalks. You'll see them in the flower pots going up and down Bridge Street often. Uh, the flavor is lemony and peppery. The leaves are delicious scattered in a salad. If you harvest a goodly amount, you can cook them in a traditional manner as you would, I almost said the chenopodium, dear God, as you would quelites, just, in a pan with a little manteca and some red pepper flakes and some sauteed onions, and they'll be delicious. You can do them with pork and red chili. Just a wonderful plant that also now has been listed as one of our top local criminals. It's interesting what is not on this list, which is any of the really troublesome perennial invasives that are trashing our city and trashing in particular our riparian areas. That would be the Siberian elm. That would be the ailanthus, also known as the tree of heaven. Honorable mention to Russian olive and salt tamarisk. None of these things that are actually serious environmental and habitat disruptors are on the list at all. And frankly, there are a lot of people who I think are just misguided who have tree of heaven, and it is an enormous tree growing in their property and thinking it's an ornamental, and these things are just hella invasive. They're allelopathic, which is a word you should probably know. It means their survival strategy is to secrete poison into the soil so other plants can't grow well around them and they get to bogart all the nutrients. They're just awful, awful plants, and they're fine, right? But do not have the Quelites and the verdolagas. That would be a sin. Anyway, this is the kind of thing that our city council has been investing their time in enacting, and I wanted to let you know about it. It's election season, and have a good look at the candidates who have already been in office, and maybe ask them, did you read that before you voted yes? If you didn't, why? If you did, why did you vote yes? What in the hell was going on in your mind? It's a legitimate question and one that we should be asking more often. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day, and let's all try to do better.